Mountain bike trail centres have been a popular mainstay of mountain biking since the 90s, but are they declining? Are they outdated? And is it where we really want to ride our bikes? Or can this new breed of bikes change the way we enjoy and ride at trail centres? So come along for a ride with me on one of my favourite trail centres here in North Wales, Coed Brennan. I'll tell you why I still think that trail centres are great, and actually why I think particularly lightweight e-bikes are so much fun at these places. Trail centres are places where the trails are marked and graded, so you know where to go and roughly how long it's going to take you and how hard or how dangerous those trails are going to be. First of all, there's the scenery. I love this part of North Wales. It's epic. It feels like you're in New Zealand or something like that. And in summertime, when the trails are dry, it's a different experience to what I'm used to be fair, but I'm making the most of it literally whilst the sun shines. And I am riding my Canyon Neuron ONfly, a bike which you've probably seen before on the channel, but I rode it here a little while ago for a video. I did some back-to-back tests against the ONfly aluminium, which has got the Bosch CX full power. But this bike has the Bosch SX, so it's the lighter weight version, obviously. Less torque. It's got the same peak power, but you have to spin quite quick. I find it does feel slightly less powerful than a CX, but definitely less torque, so 55 Newton meters. But I don't think that's a bad thing. And particularly here for these type of trails, I feel like you just spin along at such a nice pace. This bike really sort of works here. Anyway, I'll jump on the bike. Let me stick the camera onto my chest and follow me down. I'm riding the MBR trail today, which is an old classic and has some of the most fun downhills and sort of flowy sections, which are quite rocky still. And here we go. At my count, there are around 70 trail centres in the UK, but only around 12 or 15 really established centres like here at Coed Brennan with the facilities, rather than just being sort of gravel car parks in the forest with trails leading the way. Here at Coed Brennan is where it all started. It was Britain's very first mountain bike centre, built in the 90s. And I remember those early days driving over here. It sort of felt wild and rugged. Yet you could follow the map, you knew where to go, the riding was really fun. And for me, what was so good about it was in winter, the trails just rode really well. They're all weather. So yes, you knew you were going to get cold and wet, but actually the trails would roll really well because they were hard pack. And it was all still super rideable. And you knew sort of roughly how long you were going to be out on the trails, where to go. But you also, at the end, knew there was a cafe and a warm cup of tea waiting at the end. And it was super exciting. And I do feel like I'm missing those days, like I want to get back into riding these sorts of trail centres. Of course, now with e-mountain bikes, you don't really need the uplifts, or actually want them maybe. I spent a lot of my time in stinky vans in uplifts on muddy hillsides here. Sure, ski lifts are nicer, but there aren't many of those round this way. But actually, you know, at the moment I'm climbing up fire road, so it's super easy. I can spin up here as fast as I want. But actually climbing has become a really fun part of riding e-bikes. You know, altogether, I love riding up the technical stuff now. In a wider sense, trail centres and bike parks, of course, are found worldwide. Trails normally start around a trailhead, often with a cafe, bike shop or facilities. There are world-famous trail networks in places like Squamish, British Columbia, but are bike parks taking all the attention and the ride-in traffic? In my mind, a trail centre is different to a bike park, as they have a way of uplift, either van or ski lift, whereas trail centres are places where you ride up and down, and the trails have likely a more natural feeling, whereas bike parks are home to the bigger jump tracks that reward sessioning over and over again. This is my Canyon Neuron ONfly that I'm riding here today. It's a 140mm travel front and rear bike. This is the carbon fibre one, CF9, and it's full 29er. And it's a sum of all its parts that makes it feel so good for these trails. Yes, it's the Bosch SX motor, so it's not full power. It weighs in around 20 kilograms. But actually, you know, the climbs here at the trail centre are sort of designed for, you know, regular mountain bikes, obviously, when these trails were built. And it suits this bike because you don't need the extra torque and the extra poke to sort of really fire your way up super technical climbs. With this, you can just spin along. For the eagle-eyed viewers, you might see I've actually put clipless pedals on here as well, because I feel like it really suits the bike as well. And like I say, it's kind of a sum of all its parts. You know, it's got a carbon fibre chassis, it's the CF9 version. It's got RockShox Pike, so it's not like it's a big Zeb or a Fox 38. It's, you know, it has a degree of flex, but that's fine. It suits the bike. You know, tie that in with the power delivery you get and the 55 Newton meters. And I find I can't spin those super high cadences to get the peak power from this bike. But to me, that doesn't feel like it matters, because it feels like the average pace is high on this bike. It doesn't feel like you start and stop. Actually, it really rewards riding a bike with flow, much more like a regular mountain bike. And I've set it up, I've got the Schwalbe-Albert gravity tyres, so, you know, chunky casing on there. But actually, these have like quite tightly packed tread on there, which maybe wouldn't work so well in mud, but on the hard packed trails here, you've got so much sort of rubber on the ground that the grip is unreal, and they still feel like quite a trail tyre to me. Right, it's trails like this I think really make sense on this type of bike. It's fast, it's not exactly gnarly, but it's not a flow trail either. And the bike just feels super nimble, like you can really sling it around. I've still got mega grip, even though you can get away with like a lighter setup for wheels and tyres. All that adds up to make a bike feel super nimble. And actually super fun to ride on a trail like this, where on a heavier bike, it might not feel quite as responsive and as much fun. And it still gets a heart beating. Something to be careful of, I think, with now riding trail centres on these e-bikes is kind of the grading doesn't really make much sense. So I'm not convinced anymore, because like the speeds you can ride down blues with the amount of suspension and the grip you have on an e-bike, you know, can make them, whoa, pretty wild. This is currently a black trail, to be fair, and hopping over that rock, yay, almost overshot that. Like, it's now gone pretty mellow, but if I wanted to push on the e-bike, it can still get a bit dicey. I'll slow down for a second, I can regain my breath, and then get going again. These blind rises are kind of scary. So this is a typical reason of why I like these bikes. This trail here now is sort of right on the speed limit, which is of course 50.5 miles an hour for our e-bikes in the UK. But actually I could pedal over the top of the motor on this Bosch X quite nicely. I know there are other motors as well that are pretty good, but actually I think just the full package of this bike feeling lightweight and being able to pedal over top of the motor makes it feel really good, and your average speeds are so good. It's time to get going back into another downhill. It's relentless, but it is a lot of fun. I've actually found on an e-bike, I start getting almost arm pump, and it's not on the rough downhills, it's on flat sections like this, because it's just such an intense pace. If you want it to be. I am of course riding with full power, full boost. So I'm going from one downhill to the next. And I only really get to recover if it's a flyro climb. If it's a single track climb, you don't. The heart rate stays really high. I've heard the argument that trail centres could feel a bit too sort of sanitised, I guess is a word, where you've taken mountain biking and put it, you know, sort of made it tamer. But I don't agree. Funnily enough, I came here, Coed y Brenin, for the first ride after I'd sort of recovered from my recent knee injury, because yeah, I knew what I was getting. You know, the trails are going to be sort of predictable. I know how far I'm going to go. I know there's facilities, so it's somewhat safe as well. But actually, I've not found that at all. I found that it's been sort of a revelation a bit for me. Like, you know, I really haven't ridden at a trail centre much for a long time. But actually getting back into it, I've realised on e-bikes, you could just ride faster if you want. Obviously, you've got the facilities as well, but you've got these trails where you can stop for a break, charge your bike a bit, go again. So you can either just ride more faster, or actually, if you want to get adventurous, you can probably add on some wild riding as well. So you know, start off on the loop, get out onto bridleways, especially here in North Wales. I'm sure there's a lot of options to extend these sort of the trail centre trails and actually go out into the wilds a bit more. And I've just really enjoyed it, and I feel like that's the point of this video. I'm kind of trying to encourage people that if they've not done it for a while, get back out. It is way more fun than you remember. And yeah, I kind of stopped riding trail centres because I got maybe slightly bored of them, but actually some of these trails I'm riding today probably haven't changed in like, what's that, the 30 years they've been there. But yeah, they've got maybe a bit rougher, but actually now I'm just riding them completely differently, so it feels fresh to me anyway, even if the trails aren't fresh. So yeah, we'll definitely recommend it.
Some trail centres have recharging facilities to make a day of it, or even more. I've seen this in places like Finale Ligure in Italy as well. Public places to charge your bike whilst you have a break for lunch. That sounds like the dream, right?
Now, you might have seen this place, Coed y Brenin, has been in the news recently because it's well, not been positive news by any means, that actually the visitor centre here is shut down for the time being, and the cafe, so no cup of tea for me at present. And that's because of the owner, Natural Resources Wales, and trying to save some money. But thankfully, Bikes Brenin, the shop, is still open, still hiring bikes, still go and get your bars and your tubes and stuff from there. And the trails are all open as well. So definitely, if you are in the UK, you should definitely stick this on the list of trail centres to come and visit, because there's so much here. You know, I've only ridden the one trail today, but there's some big old trails here, great facilities, and it's a great place to come and ride. So thanks for watching. Jump into the comments if you've got anything about trail centres, where you ride, your local trail centres, and if you still love them, jump in. I'd love to hear your opinions. Thanks for watching.